Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new, fresh edition of JD's Wildcat World. It's been a while. I think the last time I recorded an episode was when I attended Mark Pope's introductory press conference, and what a day. And it seems like ever since then that BBN has really got excited and they're just ready for the revival, if you will, of Kentucky basketball. And we got an example of that the other night when the Cats played against Kentucky Wesleyan, won by 71 points. Yeah, 71 points. And it was exactly what we needed as Kentucky fans. That's just the flat out truth. We've struggled in exhibitions the last couple of years. If you look at the Calipari era, the last 4 or 5 years, the exhibitions haven't been pretty. We've won, but we haven't won at the rate that we did the other night. 18-point wins, 12-point wins, almost losing to Miles College. So just a very refreshing start. I just wanted to go through the roster. It's been a while. If we have new listeners to the show, go through the roster and give my preseason predictions of what I think the Cats record will be and who will lead them in scoring, stuff like that. First off, I wanted to say it is so nice to have the appropriate winning style of Kentucky basketball. I begged for Cal to play with last year's team exactly how Mark Pope coaches his teams. Super fast, you're not going to make every shot, but attempting. I think my number last year, I said I wanted that team to shoot 25 threes a game. I think you're going to see 35 to 43 shot a game under Coach Pope, and that's even better for me. That's what the game is now. It's became that you have to be able to hit threes or hit layups. Not as many mid-range shots, but if you do take mid-range shots, it needs to be your best players and not people that shouldn't take them, if you will. So, very excited. That was also refreshing. Is also refreshing is just Coach Pope himself. He seems like a great dude who's very genuine to recruits, genuine to the fans. He played here, he gets it. He understands what we want as a fan base. He understands what his players want. Us as a fan base, we don't want to hear nonsense about how, we're not educated enough to know about the team or, you know, we're not we don't even get to hear from the head coach, such as the last couple years under Cal. Mark Pope is the total opposite. And I think there's no secret that the fan base was outraged the first night of his hiring. I went on a couple Twitter spaces and I ranted. And I honestly want to say, I mean, the season hasn't started yet, but I was totally wrong. I was upset at the hire. I thought we could get someone better. I think Mark Pope is the perfect hire, and I think he's the perfect guy for this job. I think he's a guy who is one of our own, and like I said, who gets it. I was blown away by the press conference that I went to and attended. There wasn't an empty seat in Rupp Arena, as you all know by now, but just I think I can't go on and on enough about how I think Mitch Barnhart made the right choice here. Now, we'll see how the season goes, but it's just a refreshing for BBN and for Coach Pope himself, who I think is just as excited to be here as we are to watch his team play. I think we're going in the right direction for sure, and I couldn't be more happier as a Kentucky fan. I wanted to start out by going over the roster. I mean, I didn't break down every single signing of this offseason one by one like some others have. There's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to kind of wait till the season got started, till we saw these guys play in the blue white game and their first exhibition to really get into it and what I expect from each of these guys this year. I'm going to start off with Otega Owe, the transfer from Oklahoma. Dude is going to be a defensive nightmare for guards, I think. That I think that him and Lamont Butler both on the wing are going to be very exciting to watch on defense, but offense also. Lamont Butler, I start off with Owe, but I want to talk about Lamont Butler as well. Has hit a buzzer beater in the Final Four. Just crazy experience already. That's why I think this team right out of the gate is going to come out hot. And it's not like teams of previous years where they will struggle coming out because they're young. These guys are very much aged. They very much know what is expected of them. Lamont Butler, the transfer from San Diego State, like I said, similar as Otega Owe. I think both of those guys are going to be good on offense and defense. I think they lean more defensive wise, but they can also go get a bucket when they need to. I fully believe that. So there's not a better set of defensive guards in the country that I can think of right now that will just lock you up on defense. You saw in the Kentucky Wesleyan game that I think they know exactly what Pope wants in his offense. I think that's one thing that's changed just in the little bit of time that we have had that we've seen this team. They know exactly what their coach wants on the offensive side of the ball. They run it to a T. They run super quick, super fast down the floor, get up as many shots as possible. And I think that's going to be huge. The third guy I want to talk about is a guy that, if you listen to this podcast before, my number one target on the board for Coach Pope to get this offseason was Jackson Robinson. I think he's going to be our best player. I think he's going to be our leading scorer. Not by a lot, because I think we'll be very balanced across the board. I mean, you got 10 guys that can play and play well. I don't know how Pope is going to cut down his rotation, but Jackson Robinson is a guy that I wanted from the very beginning. You can see every time he takes the floor why. Anytime he's open, you assume it's going in. He can drive to the basket, he can defend as well. But he was the number one guy on my wish list, and we got him. And I think he's going to be the best player for the Cats this year. Kobe Bryant, another guy, a knockdown shooter. We've already seen this in the short amount of time. I think he shot like 51% last year from three at Dayton. I mean, he is a absolute knockdown shooter, but that's not the only thing he can do either. He can pull up mid range, he can drive and get a layup. He can do all these different things. He's another guy that has a lot of experience. He comes from Dayton, who I respect as a program. They made the tournament last year. He played very well in the tournament. So I think Kobe Bryant is another guy that we are just going to be amazed by. And I'm just going to say, you're hearing a lot of the same thing from me, because I think, and this is getting away from the roster, but I think this team is vastly underrated. I think we come into the season ranked 23rd. I think if there is 22 teams better than this one, I'm going to be shocked. And that's the flat out truth. I think that, some of our fans are like, I don't know. I don't think that we should even be ranked 25, 23rd or whatever we are. But, I am on the other side of the spectrum here. I think that the Cats are underrated because of the experience, because of the ability to shoot the ball from anywhere on the floor, all five positions. Just the way Pope coaches offense. His offense, I think, is going to be super hard to stop. I'm just very, very excited. I think, like I said, very underrated. My thinking based off the teams and what they have, I think we're a top 15, top 10 team just right off the bat. And I cannot wait to see where this team is at the end of the year. We'll get a really good test against Duke for sure, and Cooper Flagg, because Cooper Flagg is unbelievably talented. Duke is going to be very solid this year, so that'll be a heck of a good test for us. Move on to Colin Chandler, who is a guy that stepped away from basketball for 2 years to go on a Mormon mission, had originally committed to Mark Pope at BYU, and you see exactly what you're going to get from him. A high flyer, a heck of an athlete who can dunk on someone's face or pull up from three and bury it. Just a very good all-around player. I think he's going to be one of BBN's favorite players on the team just because of how he plays and what he does. I think he's vastly underrated too. McDonald's All-American when he originally committed to BYU, but it seems like a lot of people forgot about him. And I think the college basketball world is going to know about him very, very soon. I expect big things out of number 5, Colin Chandler. Andrew Carr from Wake Forest, a stretch big who is very good around the rim, but can also step outside and shoot it. He's a guy that is perfect for Mark Pope's offense. He's kind of like a Big Z type, but I think he's stronger. I think he can finish better around the rim than Big Z. But a guy that, like I said, in Mark Pope's offense, you have to have a very good passing big. I think Andrew Carr's that guy. He fits in perfect, just like Big Z would be a monster in Mark Pope's offense. I think Andrew Carr is going to be that guy. You saw in the blue white game, especially, he played really well. Just defending, a good shot blocker for his size, and a guy who can finish around the rim, also step out, knock down threes when needed. So I think we're in good hands, the big guys, with Andrew Carr leading them. Trent Noah, did he hit six threes against Kentucky Wesleyan? I mean, comes off the bench, dead eye shooter from Harlan County, the pride of Harlan County, another Kentucky kid. We always love when Kentucky kids get a chance as a Kentucky player. I think this is going to be no different. Coach Pope went and stole him from South Carolina. He was committed to South Carolina. He was going there. Cal didn't even recruit the kid. So he was ready. I think he was actually committed to South Carolina. And Lamont Paris, South Carolina's coach, let him out of his letter of intent, and he decided to come play for Coach Pope and join the Cats. And we're super glad to have him as a fan base. I think he's going to also be one of BBN's favorite players. Brandon Garrison, transfer from Oklahoma State, another one of those guys that Coach Pope, when he got him, said, this guy lit me up when I was at BYU, so I had to go grab him, get him to play for me. He couldn't wait to coach him. Think I don't really know what to expect out of Brandon. I think his offense could use a little work, but on the defensive side of the ball, I think he's as good as any big man in the country. He can get up, block shots, he can rebound very well. So I'm excited to see the development as Brandon keeps getting used to SEC play against good schools, and also a McDonald's All American coming out of high school. So I think he'll keep on improving, and I think he's a very good passing big as well. So another guy that will be good in this offense. Travis Perry, a guy that arguably BBN wanted the most out of everyone. He was already committed when Cal was here, but Coach Pope got him to stay, and it was huge. He's a knockdown shooter. I hope to see him knock down shots at a high rate. I think that's what he's there for. So he had a very good blue white game, as in he hit the game winning free throw for his team, and just a knockdown shooter. Looked very good in the 3-point contest at Big Blue Madness as well. So hopefully he can carry that over to the regular season. Ansley Almanor, the transfer from Fairleigh Dickinson, just a knockdown shooter big who had a very good game against Kentucky Wesleyan. Hit 5 threes. He's a guy that mainly he's going to focus on his outside shot, but can also get you a bucket inside as well. He's built like a big that would muscle you inside, but he also has a deadly stroke from outside. So very excited for him. Amari Williams, 3-time CAA Defensive Player of the Year at Drexel. He was number 2 on my wish list for this team because anytime Coach Pope has had a good defensive big, it takes the defense to another level. And good defense leads to good offense, gets you out faster, just makes everything easier. Amari is a guy that I look forward to seeing how he plays defense in SEC play. He's, like I said, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year in his conference, but let's see how he does in the SEC. If he can lock down guys in the SEC, we're talking he'll be up there for maybe SEC Player of the Year or Defensive Player of the Year. Sorry about that, but just a guy that we need to be dominant inside, and I think we'll have that. He's very big, very strong, and I look to see a lot of blocked shots from Amari Williams this season. Kirk Risa went to Arizona and West Virginia. West Virginia was his last stop. Once again, guys that I think will be fan favorites. He's one of them. His attitude, his charisma, the way he plays the game. He's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury. I fully expect him to play the first regular season game against Wright State, but just a good knockdown shooter that I fully expect will be able to run the offense how Pope wants to as a point guard or even play off the ball. Kerr is another guy that ate Pope up in the Big 12 last year when he played for West Virginia and they played against BYU, that he wanted to go get. He's wanted to coach him for years, he said, when Kerr first committed. So I'm very excited to see how that player-coach dynamic works for sure. Pope seemed very excited to coach all these guys. So I'm trusting in Pope. That's just what it comes down to. I'm trusting in this team that he's built. Do I think we're going to be national title contenders. I'm not ruling that out. I want to see as the competition gets better how the offense looks, how the defense really looks. I'm not even really worried about the offense. I'm more worried about the defense and how it looks against these better opponents, and then we'll see. I mean, I'm going in with an open mind. In my head and my thoughts, this is a total revival of Kentucky basketball. I think I said that earlier in the episode, but it's the truth. As BBN, we want to see good, solid basketball, and I think we're going to see that. I really do. I'm super excited to get this regular season underway. These exhibitions are awesome, but I want to see where we are in the regular season. Like I said, bright lights. Can these guys handle being at Kentucky? I believe they can because Coach Pope has instilled in them what Kentucky is, what the BBN is. I'm really excited, and I fully believe they are going to play for Coach Pope and for this fan base and give us exactly what we all need. So now that was a little bit of a roster breakdown. I'm not going to go into all their stats and everything else. I don't want to bore you all to death. However, we're going to give preseason predictions. I'm going to go through every game and, totally opinion based. I've been wrong many times before, and you all let me know. You all let me know when I'm wrong. Trust me. But I'm going to go through, and as you are listening to this, you might think I'm crazy, or you might agree with what I say. Either way, I'm just glad you all are here listening. And while I'm shouting out BBN for a second, I just want to thank you all. While I've been not recording this off season, you all have still been listening, and that means the world to me. I never thought that anybody would be interested in what I said or, gave my opinions on. So just thank you for that. And everyone who follows the Facebook page and the Twitter, I really appreciate it. If you don't, add JD's Wildcat World on Facebook. I post updates during every game, even some football. I know the football season hasn't went how BBN has wanted it, but I post the scores updates during the game. Might even do some live feeds on TikTok or Facebook if I have enough people interested as the game starts, so we can do a watch along together. I think that would be very fun. But go add the Facebook page if you haven't already. I know a ton of you all are on there, and if you all have questions, you ask me. And I appreciate that. I hope I can answer any questions you all may have. So, but if you don't, go follow JD's Wildcat World on X, I guess it's called now, and add it on Facebook. So we're starting off with a week from Monday against Wright State, the first game of the Mark Pope era. I like the Cats big in this one. Wright State made the tournament a couple years ago. I'm not going to act like I have a Wright State scouting report, but I'm going to say in advance, I don't think we have a UNC Greensboro top performance like we did last year. I don't think we lose, knock on wood, to any of the lower tier teams because I think Pope is going to have his guys ready for those games, and I think the talent will outweigh the others. Bucknell, I like the Cats to win that one. Not as big as Wright State, but I do like the win. And then we get to the big game. 2-0 going into Duke, the State Farm's Champions Classic in Atlanta this year. As much as I want to pick a win, we're not going 40-0. That's just a fact. That's nearly impossible. I think Duke's talent outweighs the Cats early, and I think we come home with a close L. Now, could I see us winning that game? Yeah, I really could. Duke is, everybody acts like Duke's so good every single year. I feel like they underachieve as well as we have lately. I think Pope will have the guys ready. I don't think it's a blowout. I think it's very close, but I think the talent of Cooper Flagg outweighs what we have, and I think Duke wins about a 5 to 10 point game. Come back home, play Lipscomb. I've got the Cats winning that one pretty easily. Jackson State, I think that has the potential to be the biggest win of the year for the Cats, points wise. Of course, other than the exhibitions, I don't think we're beating anyone else by more than 71 points, but just Jackson State's really small school. I think they're in the SWAC conference, and that's the conference has been pretty bad over the last several years. And I think Kentucky rolls against Jackson State. Then we get Western at home. I always love playing Western. As a kid, going to Western games, been to several. I was always a Western fan. So I think the Cats get it done, though, in the BBN Invitational by, I would say, 15 to 20 points in that game. Georgia State, I've got a win. They've only got us 1L so far. Now we're getting to the interesting games. I've got Clemson and Gonzaga back to back. I think we split that. I'm not going to pick which game we win, which one we lose. I don't see us winning both, but I also don't see us losing both of those games. I think we're more likely to beat Gonzaga than going on the road at 9:30 at night and beating Clemson. I think that's going to be a rowdy environment. So I'll go ahead and say Clemson is the L. Gonzaga, we finally beat Gonzaga. We've been trying for 2 or 3 years now. They've owned us. They have absolutely owned us. They beat us at home last year. I'm tired of losing to them. I know BBN is. The way we lost last year was just even more infuriating than the fact we lost. So I like us to beat Gonzaga and lose to Clemson. That gives us 2 L's. We finish up the non-conference season with Colgate, Louisville, and Ohio State and Brown. I think we'll go 4-0 in that stretch. I think we go into conference play with 2 L's, one at Clemson and one to Duke. I think we handle Louisville not easily. They're very much better than they have been the last couple years. I like us to win by 5 to 10 points against Louisville. It's at Louisville. No, it's at Rupp. I'm sorry. It is at Rupp. So yeah, I like us there. Coach Pope, that's another game that any big game, I think Pope will have them ready, but against Louisville especially, my goodness, I think Pope's going to be juiced for that one. He's going to have the guys juiced, and I think we win all those games. Ohio State is a team that definitely could beat us, but that's another team I'm also tired of losing to, and I never thought I would say that in basketball. We should own Ohio State, but they have owned us. In the CBS Sports Classic, they have owned us, and that is one thing that I'm ready for, that I think will change, and I'm ready for it to change. So I like the Cats. In that game, we'll get to play former Cat Aaron Bradshaw. Ohio State has a new coach this year who really seems to, their fan base is really excited about. So we'll see how that goes as well. But I like the Cats in a very close game against Ohio State at Madison Square Garden. They close it out on New Year's Eve against Brown. I think that's an easy win against the Ivy League opponent. Then we go to SEC play. I think at most you go into non-conference, or you go into conference with 4 losses. That would honestly be disappointing to me looking at this schedule. I would assume, Gonzaga would be one that I picked us to win that we could lose. And we could also potentially lose to Louisville or Ohio State. I don't think we lose every single one of those games. I just don't. I think this team's better than that. So I've got us going into conference play with 2 L's. One to Clemson and one to Duke. Okay. We opened conference play with Florida. Last year, I went to the Florida game at Rupp, and an absolute heartbreaker. Do we get revenge this year? Florida is going to be very good again this year. Walter Clayton Jr. returns. He's one of my favorite players in college basketball just because of the way he shoots the ball. He's automatic from outside. I don't like Florida by any means, but you got to respect a good player. I'm not sure if Zion Pullen is still there, their other good guard from last season, but I know for a fact Walter Clayton is. But, this year we've got guards that can shut him down. And that's Lamont Butler, Otega Owe, guys that can get up in him and make him miss his threes. So we'll see. I like Kentucky to get revenge and win that one at home. At Georgia, could be a sneaky one on a Tuesday night, but I think we handle our business. I could see us, that's one of those games where you just kind of dread playing. I could see us struggling coming out of the gate, but I think we close it out, win by 10 to 15 points. At Mississippi State, they're going to be solid this year. Still have Josh Hubbard, who is a guy that I really wanted, but he never got in the transfer portal. He's very good guard. He lit us up last year. He lit people up in the SEC tournament when I was there watching them. I think it was Tennessee that he did pretty good against when they beat them. Just a very solid Mississippi State squad. They kind of remind me of the Cats in a way that they've got guards that can play, Their bigs are probably average, but they're really going to try to lock people up. But, the Cats haven't lost at Mississippi State in a while. Of course, last year, Reed Shepherd hits a buzzer beater to keep that streak alive. I like the Cats at Mississippi State, and if we start the conference 3-0, I think we're definitely going in the right position. Versus Texas A&M at home, that's one of those games, man. I'm still trying to recover from watching Texas A&M beat us in the first round of the SEC tournament for us, going down there 2 years in a row, losing 1 year to Vandy, and then last year to Texas A&M. Their guards doing the same exact thing time after time down the floor. They got Wade Taylor back again. They're going to be very good. So the good thing is, I think we have a coach now that will make adjustments and not let their guards get downhill anytime they want to. So I like the Cats to get a bounce back win against Texas A&M. Now, our first home loss of the Mark Pope era, in my opinion, comes to Alabama, which is the next game. Alabama, in my opinion, might be my pick to win the national championship. They are very good at every position. Mark Sears is back. Their offense is always potent. They play very fast, but this final score could be 120 to 118. Both teams get up and down the floor at an extremely high rate. So I do think Bama beats us at Rupp for Pope's first loss of the Mark Pope era, but I think it'll be an incredibly close game that probably comes down to the last couple possessions. At Vanderbilt, like the Cats. Vanderbilt has a brutal schedule this year. I think it was on TikTok. They've got a fully rebuilt, brand new roster, new coach, just similar to Kentucky. But I think our talent far outweighs the talent they brought in. I like the Cats big at Vandy. I think the Cats lose at Tennessee after that. So that brings us to 4 L's. The Cats lose at Thompson-Boling. I think it's just an incredibly hard place to play. Tennessee is very good once again this year. They returned Zakai Ziegler as their main guy that they returned, but they lost Jonas Adu to Arkansas. But I think Tennessee is going to be very solid again. I think the Cats go down in Knoxville. But man, would I love to be wrong. I would love for us to beat them down there in Knoxville. It's always a little sweeter to get that win. And then this goes without stating, probably the biggest game in Kentucky basketball recent history, February the 1st at 9 p.m. at Rupp Arena. The Cats welcome Arkansas and John Calipari and 3 guys from last year's team. So, I think you all know I cannot pick us to lose to Arkansas. Cats win and win big at home against Arkansas. This Kentucky team, is the teams that were John Calipari's worst nightmare when he was here. Guys that can shoot the crap out of the ball, that make you work on every defensive possession. This is Calipari's worst nightmare as a team. Do they have more talent than us? Possibly. It's possible. One, they already can't stay healthy. They scrimmage Kansas tonight. I think they have 6 or 7 guys available. He's already sending out assistants for press conferences. It's the same old last couple years John Calipari. He's made his way to Arkansas. I don't think he changes anything in his offense. I think it's the same thing, and I think the Cats win big. I think Pope will have the guys more than ready for this one, and I think the Cats beat Arkansas. At Ole Miss, one of the most surprising L's of the season comes at Ole Miss, and it's because the Cats coming off a big win. It's an easy letdown spot for sure. Chris Beard will have his team ready. He's a very good coach in the SEC. I think the Cats take their 5th L of the year at Ole Miss. Then you've got South Carolina coming to Rupp. I think you got to win that one. South Carolina will be very hard-nosed, very tough team, just like they were last year. They beat us last year. I think the Cats get it done at home against South Carolina. Then, Tennessee, February 11th. The Cats welcome them into Rupp Arena. I like the Cats by about 12 points in that one. They get revenge for Tennessee beating them in Knoxville, and we split the season series going into the SEC tournament. You've got at Texas. First time ever at Texas. I've got an L. That brings us to 6 losses on the year. I think Texas will be solid. I don't even think this is one of those games where they're better than us. I just think it's similar to the Ole Miss game where you just take the L and move on. At Texas is a rough environment, but we'll see. Vandy at home. I've got a dub. Dub for the Cats. It seems like lately that Vandy at home has been a very tough game, harder than it should be. It's like we dominate them in Nashville and then they play us close at home, but I like the Cats to win. At Alabama, another L. I think Bama sweeps us in the season series this year. I would love to be wrong. I'd love to at least split with them, but I think they're just too tough. And I think that my seventh L of the year for the Cats. But at Bama, they're going to be, if they are as good as I think they are, they're going to be ranked top 5 all year long. That place will be rocking. Bama's not normally an environment that is an insane environment, but if they're good, they're going to be rowdy. So I've got Bama. Kentucky at Oklahoma. I like the Cats. I don't think Oklahoma is going to be very good at all this year. They struggled last year. I think the SEC will really be hard on them. I like the Cats to take care of business in Norman. I think this is the first time we've played them in a very long time. I don't remember playing them ever. Honestly, I'd have to look it up and see the all-time stats, but I like the Cats pretty big, pretty easily against Oklahoma here. Kentucky versus Auburn, another big home game. I like the Cats. Auburn is going to be very good this year. They return Janai Broome, of course, Bruce Pearl coaching them. Always a good. I think Bruce Pearl teams always overachieve, and I think Auburn is very solid this year. When they're very solid, it feels like they win at least the SEC tournament. Even years they haven't been solid with him, they make a good run in the postseason. So, I like Kentucky, but I think that's another game that could come down to the very last possession. I like that we get them at home this year. Finally, it feels like we've played them on the road so much lately. Granted, we did go down there and beat them last year. That was a very impressive win at Auburn that a lot of fans didn't expect to see even play them close down there last year, and we come home with a win. So I like the Cats at home against Auburn. Kentucky at home against LSU. I think we get revenge on them. Should have never lost to them last year down in Louisiana, but we did on a last second shot. I think we get them back at Rupp fairly easily. And then we end the regular season with at Missouri. I think that's such a weird game. I think Missouri will definitely be better than they were last year. Dennis Gates seems like he's a pretty good coach, but they were absolutely garbage last year. That's a heck of a weird spot. I was looking at the schedule. That's a weird last regular season game. I honestly think it's a toss up just because it's down there, but I'll trust Pope to get the win and end the regular season with in good terms. And I think 7 L's for the Cats. That's probably less than most people predict. I think worst case scenario we lose 11 because there were some games in there that I picked us to win that we could definitely lose. But just based on what I'm hearing out of the practices, what I've seen with my own eyes on the court, and I know it's an exhibition game and practices, but I think this team is going to be very good. 7 L's would be a heck of a first year for Coach Pope. That's how much I believe in this offense, though. You could argue a more realistic prediction would be 10 losses. I could argue that either way, but I guess I'm looking at the better side of this, and my projection is 7 losses. We'll see how that goes. I know I'm a homer. I'm a homer for sure, but I just think based on what I'm seeing, I went game by game. Now, that ends the regular season. SEC tournament, I think you all better be ready for a SEC tournament because that's one of the first things Coach Pope mentioned in his press conference. And I think he is built, I think by that time in the season, as long as we avoid major injuries, I think he'll be ready to get his guys in that March Madness mindset, something that I think we've lacked the last several. You can just look at our track record the last couple of years, losing to St. Peter's in the first round, losing to Oakland last year, beating a sorry Providence team by a couple points and then turn around and losing to Kansas State, a team we never should have lost to. It's like the mindset of the coach wasn't there, so how could the players be? And I think you're looking at the total opposite. I think Coach Pope is all in on bringing banner number 9 to Kentucky, back to Lexington. He did it as a player. I think he's ready to do it as a coach as well. And I know all this sounds, like best case scenario. JD, you're talking about a guy who's never won a tournament game. I understand that, and I get that point. But this is Kentucky. This is Coach Pope's wheelhouse, it feels like. His offense is way better than even I realized. I went back and watched some BYU highlights last year because I'm not going to act like I sit up here and watched BYU last year. That didn't happen. But I went back, watched some highlights, and those guys are nowhere near as talented as this team we have this year. And they were ranked for most of the year. We're in a very deep Big 12 conference and finished like maybe 4th or 5th in that conference. I personally had them in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 in my bracket this year. They got upset in the first round. Shockingly, I still can't believe that happened. But I'm very, very excited to see where this group ends up. I know BBN is as well. Engagement from my last post, I think, or my last episode, I think it was titled The Mark Pope Era of Kentucky Basketball is Here. Most listened to episode that I've had. That just shows you this fan base is rejuvenated. They're ready. They're ready to come unglued. They're ready for, like, if we go beat Duke in that third game of the year, I think we're back to where Kentucky basketball needs to be. I think we're on our way there, but, I think we're back to Coach Cal's first couple years of excitement. You know what I'm saying? Good, solid teams. Like, in the Champions Classic, we just have not been good. We haven't been good. It seems like every time early in the season we've had a big game, especially Champions Classic, we've lost it. And whether it's getting blew out or coming down to the last couple possessions. So, I think just to see this team in the bright light, see how they handle it, will be a very fun time. This has been a pretty long episode, but I felt like it needed to be because I wanted to go through, break down the transfers, break down the roster, and give you my predictions for every game. I've got 7 losses for the Cats. You all mark it down. When we end up losing more or less, you all tell me how wrong I am, just like many of you all like to do. But I really appreciate every single one of you, even the people who do that, because, I couldn't do it. There would be no reason to do it if people didn't listen. So thank you all very much. If you couldn't tell by this episode, I am more than ready to get this basketball season underway. Like I said, football started well, but has kind of dipped down to an area where, most of the fan base is ready for basketball, ready to get it started and see where this team is. So hopefully you all can take this episode, listen to it. Let me know your all's predictions. Let me know how many losses you think. How far do we get in the SEC tournament? I've got the Cats with 7 L's SEC tournament. I think we make it to the finals and get beat by Alabama. That's my prediction. Alabama or Auburn, I could see. Auburn always gets hot in Nashville, I feel like. So I could see them knocking off Alabama and then us meeting them in the championship. But I think there is no scenario, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I do not see us going down there and getting beat day one of the SEC tournament. I just don't. I think it means too much to Pope and this staff, but we'll see. We could come in here and this could be a freezing cold take. Like, we could come in here and lose 14 or 15 games and I look like an idiot for projecting this, but I'm confident. Confidence might not be the right play, but we'll see. I like the Cats. I like what Pope has built, and I trust in him and trust that for years to come, this is going to be the right move. And, he's winning recruiting battles that a lot of people didn't think he would win. He's got Jasper Johnson, an in-state kid. He's had 2 commitments, and he's looking at other guys that, let's just face it, I think the fan base didn't think he could get. And I'm very excited of that part as well. When you thought of Pope, you didn't really think of a recruiter. but he's got the platform at Kentucky. He's got donors backing him now for NIL. It's a very good combination, and I'm very, very excited. So let's get this last exhibition game out of the way against Minnesota State, which I will say D2 national champions, which I also thought Kentucky Wesleyan was really good, and it's possible they still are. But I'm not going to overlook this Minnesota State team. Won the D2 national championship last year. I'm going to be honest, the Wesleyan game, I expected about a 25 to 30 point win. We went out and won by 71. Now, what do you expect against the D2 national champions? I think it's going to be closer, but this team is so good. They play so quick. They get so many possessions. They put up so many threes. Give me the Cats by 30, by a score of 96 to 66. MVP, I'm going to go Jackson Robinson, in my opinion, the obvious best player on the team. And we'll see what happens. I'll be back. I don't know if I'll be back after the Minnesota State game or if I'll wait until after we play our first game against Wright State on Monday, November 4th. I plan on being in attendance for that game. First real game of the Mark Pope era. We'll see. But until then, you all be good. You can find JD's Wildcat World on anywhere you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. You all know the deal. Find us on YouTube. Stream it there. You all are the best. Thank you, Coach Pope, for bringing back the excitement in this fan base and reviving us all. I cannot wait to get this season started. Let's go beat Wright State. Let's go beat Bucknell. And then let's go beat Duke. Thank you all for listening. This has been JD's Wildcat World.